What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Desai Guys Football Forum. I am one of your co-hosts, I'm Desai, joined as always by my good friend, my good buddy, the other half of the Desai Guys, Mr. Tad Desai. And Tad, looks like we're joined by a third guest in today's episode here.
Yeah, this is great. I feel like Dr. Evil right now. Just like my chair, just stroking my cat. Like, this is great. I love it. But this is why I have no Wi-Fi. Still, thanks AT&T. So yes, we still don't have Wi-Fi after the series of storms Dallas has gotten. But you know what? We're still coming at you. We'll make it work any way we can. And this just means more chances for Cap to make an appearance. So that's just, hi, buddy. That just means, more good things for the podcast.
Exactly. So he'll be joining us today as we talk about DFS lineups and just value plays like we usually try to do every week. Tad, let's not waste any time here. Let's sort of just get into it. Who is a guy that you either like or dislike for week 6 here for DFS rosters?
Look, this is a guy that is consistently insulted by fantasy football experts, but at this point we have to take him as legitimate quarterback one. And yes, I said quarterback one. That is Joe Burrow. And look, you look at Detroit's performance. Yes, it's Bengals versus Detroit, which, a couple years ago, woof, what a matchup. But now, actually, pretty solid matchup. Detroit's defense is no joke, but Burrow is coming off back-to-back 20-plus point performances. I think he's finally starting to hit his stride in this offense. By the way, if you have an opportunity to, trade for Jamar Chase. I love Jamar Chase as a future fantasy star at wide receiver. And look, when Joe Burrow hasn't gone for over 20 points, he's finished at 18 points twice, which is still respectable. So the bottom line is you're still getting a pretty safe starter at about $1,000 cheaper than you get most other good starting quarterbacks. So I think Joe Burrow at, again, $6,300. Most solid starters you get at like $7,100. So you're getting him for $800 less. It's hard to find a better value than that.
No, I think it's a very true point there. That's like, Joe Burrow was killing it last year with the unfortunate injury that sort of derailed his rookie season and probably would have won Rookie of the Year if he, played the entire season. But just unfortunately, that injury derailed his season. But he's coming back really strong. He's got a great set of weapons out there. Obviously, you mentioned Jamar Chase, but still got Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. We brought this up before, but I'm still kind of on that bandwagon that 3 1,000-yard receivers from Cincinnati, it could happen sort of thing.
Don't forget, Uzuma went off. What was that?
Yeah. Out of nowhere, he just totally balled out. He had 2 touchdowns and 100 yards or something like that. That was out of the blue, completely fluky. But it's Joe Burrow is sort of the mastermind of this offense, and he's really making this offense go. There's a reason why they're 3-2. The defense is playing really well too. But for 6,300. He's a really good option for your DFS roster. So I'm actually going to take it a step further, Tad, and I actually got a guy who's going to put up QB1 numbers for under $7,000, and that's Matthew Stafford. He's playing the New York Giants this week. So for $6,700, you can have Matthew Stafford in your roster. I mean,
get out of here.
Stafford is just proving the front office right, that they were right to sort of acquire him in the offseason for his services. I mean, he gets a great matchup against the Giants, like I sort of mentioned. Giants have given up 20 fantasy points in 3 out of the 5 games that they played this year. And then on top of that, 2 of those games that they allowed 20 or more fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks, one of them was Teddy Bridgewater. The other one was Tyler Heineke. I think Matthew Stafford is better than both those guys combined. So I think he's in for a really good day.
That's up for debate, I would say.
So, I think, if we only had a Bob Barker cameo here, the price is right for Matthew Stafford this week. You can afford him. He's going to give you a QB1 performance, like I said, for under $7,000, which is allowing you to sort of build out your roster in other ways. You can get some good receivers, good running backs, a tight end, whatever it is. But just to get a really good quarterback at that price, it's hard to beat it. It's really hard to beat that one.
I mean, that price is shocking to me because, look, I have Matthew Stafford in my league with all my college friends. There's not a doubt in my mind that I'm starting him against the Giants. And like I said, talking about Joe Burrow, $7,100 is usually the starting rate for solid starters. So the fact that you can get Matt Stafford for that, you know what? Guys, forget Joe Burrow. Go Matt Stafford. Oh, shit, what a bargain. I'm not a Giants hater, But that defense, other than that defensive line, is a joke. They are not that good. For some reason, that secondary should be much better than what they are, but for whatever they aren't, love that pick. Love it.
Yeah, I picked that Giants secondary, if you remember, in our super team sort of like, positional unit group. I had the Giants as my favorite secondary, and for some reason, they're just not performing. And just one final note about Stafford that's more statistical. Currently ranked as 3rd most passing yards in the league and 5th most passing touchdowns in the league as well. So he's definitely going to get his numbers against the Giants.
Another stat, he has not thrown for less than 275 yards in his last 3 weeks.
There you go. So, Stafford, I think, is an excellent play. Stafford is an excellent play this weekend. But Joe Burrow is actually not bad, too. If you want to spend a little bit more on some of the other positions, I think Joe Burrow has a really good matchup as well. So, Tad, let's move into another guy that you like or dislike in this case. So, give us another one.
This is a bit of a riskier pick, admittedly. But, you look at the prices other guys are getting, it makes no sense to me. You got James Conner at $5,500, $5,500. That's the same price as Zach Moss. Here's the thing that really blew my mind. He's cheaper than guys like Chuba Hubbard and, I'm going to try it, Tony Pollard.
Strike out again, man.
Pollard. It's Pollard.
There you go.
Cap, am I ever going to get this? No, I'm not. Okay. Tony Pollard. But either way, being cheaper than 2 backup guys, and yes, I know Chuba is technically the starter still, but let's be real. DJ Moore has been Christian McCaffrey's replacement. That's why DJ Moore's production has been so good the past 2 weeks, is because they basically just replaced him with McCaffrey. So, I know Chase Edmonds was questionable last week, didn't do a whole lot. I think he had like 2.9 points, depending on what format you were in. But James Conner, it doesn't matter, because here's the crazy thing. Edmonds has been having a really good fantasy season. I know we were saying sell high on him a couple of weeks ago, but this is one of the reasons why. He still hasn't scored a touchdown this entire season, receiving or rushing. He still hasn't scored a touchdown. So the big reason because of that is James Conner. Whenever they're in the red zone, they just hand it off to him again and again and again. And this offense is so good. They're going to be in the red zone consistently going against this Browns offense. Why? Because I think Browns-Cardinals, first off, I can't wait for that game. That's going to be an amazing game. Second off, though, the reason I can't wait for that is probably because it's going to be a shootout. And in a shootout, you have a lot of chances for your running back to score. And as I said before, if a running back's going to score for the Cardinals, it's not going to be Chase Edmonds. It's going to be James Conner. So at $5,500, I think that's a pretty safe flex bet for a guy that's going to put up around 10 points, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, it's not a bad safe play if you're looking for a cheaper option at the running back position or to get a cheap option at your flex position. You could do worse than James Conner. So, yeah, definitely it's not a bad play. He's definitely getting all the red zone touches like you sort of mentioned. But, yeah, in a sort of shootout match like that, whenever they get closer to the red zone, Kyler Murray will probably either looking for a goal line throw to, DeAndre Hopkins probably, or they're going to be handing it off to James Conner. It's going to be one or the other.
I'm a DeAndre Hopkins owner, so I'm just like, it's one of the weird things, dude. The Cardinals offense is quickly turning into the new Saints, where I'm just like, why are you throwing that Christian Kirk? DeAndre Hopkins is right there, and it's like, damn it, this is the hell I've welcomed into my life.
Well, surprisingly, this was the question we always had with the Cardinals. It's just like, who's going to step up behind DeAndre Hopkins if he ever got hurt? And it's like, finally, we're seeing this offense sort of spread the ball around. You're seeing Christian Kirk get involved. You're seeing, Rondale Moore, the rookie, getting involved. Obviously, AJ Green's getting involved. Max Williams, before he got hurt, was getting involved. So it's like, finally, it's like not just DeAndre Hopkins, the solo act. It's like, if perchance, unfortunately, he does get hurt. He's already questionable with an injury right now, but it's just like, if he were to miss any time, the offense shouldn't suffer it now. Whereas before, it was a very big question mark. It's just like, if DeAndre Hopkins were to miss time, it's just like, what's that passing offense going to look like? But now it seems like it's not an issue anymore.
Yeah, that was our whole talking point around the Cardinals last season was, man, if DeAndre Hopkins goes down, this Cardinals offense is screwed. Now, if he goes down, it's like, does anything really change?
No, it's true. It's very, very true. So I'm going to get into my another value play here that I like, and it's a defense, actually. I like the Buffalo Bills versus the Tennessee Titans for only $2,900, because usually if you can afford a defense that has a good matchup for under $3,000, I think you're in for a value play right there. And I mean, it's like, Look, I know, defense is not something that you usually build your roster around, but like I said, at this price, it's hard to pass it up. Look at the fact that the Bills probably should be undefeated if not for that block punt against the Steelers in week 1. And, it just through 4 weeks after that game, they've just become a more dominant force in the NFL. We actually just had a group chat on our Slack channel between all of our LAFB network members asking about our top 10s, and the consensus favorite was the Buffalo Bills at number 1, because we just see that this team has sort of got everything going. They have all their motors in motion. Everything is clicking for them, especially when you look at Sunday night when they're playing the Kansas City Chiefs. We talked about this game being very close, and the Chiefs, are going to play them pretty hard, obviously, because they're fighting for that possible number 1 seed down the road, obviously, but the Chiefs controlled this game. I mean, you look at the fact that it's like, they forced 4 turnovers in that game, registered 2 sacks, held Patrick Mahomes to under 300 passing yards, also held Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill to under 70 yards receiving. What does that say about your defense? You actually have things under control, and now they're going to play the Titans offense, which does not have as many weapons as the Chiefs offense does. Yes, by names they do. A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, Derrick Henry, all these guys, but offense has been very up and down. It hasn't been very consistent. So I think this Buffalo team is going to ride that high, keep going into the, future weeks, obviously here, go into a Tennessee Titans game that could also play a factor into seeding later on down the road as well. And I think the Buffalo Bills will continue their dominance. And the fact that you can get them for only $2,900, that's, absolute bargain basement deal there. You absolutely need to put them in your roster.
No, I totally disagree with you here. First off, defenses are not that valuable to begin with. You can just get by. If your defense scores 3, 4, 5 points, great. That's a great week. Just move on from there. This defense is not putting up 10, to 15 points because 2 words, my friend, Derrick Henry. You say, he's just another name. He's the number 1 running back in fantasy football this year because of the consistent volume he gets. And sure, you are absolutely correct. And by the way, you might have noticed that Cap has left the show right now because he cannot believe the blasphemy of this pick. Because you say, sure, they're just a bunch of names, A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, Ryan Tannehill. They've only been healthy together once this year. And like I said before, that once was a admittedly terrible game against the Cardinals, but everyone has a terrible game every now and then. That just happens. So for the first time the entire season, since week 1, these guys are all going to be back together healthy. Is the Bills defense good? Absolutely. They're probably the best in the league. But this is the first time this incredibly loaded offense is back. So could I see the Bills finishing with 7 or 8 points? Absolutely. But are they worth that price? No. You can find better. Honestly, here's my pick for defense. Go the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Seattle Seahawks. Roll that dice. Bet that they absolutely destroy Geno Smith. That's a better bet in my opinion.
Agree to disagree, my friend. That's all I'll say there. All right, let's move in.
Cap left the show because that pick was so bad. So it's 2-on-1 here.
No, I think he left because of that freezing cold take he just dropped right now. That's why he left. All right, let's move on to, our final guys here. Just who's another guy that you either like or dislike heading into week 6 for your DFS roster?
This guy I don't like. I don't hate this valuation, but it's a little too high for my taste. That's Dalvin Cook at $7,700. Again, look, I'm not saying he's going to be a bust here, but for that much money, I need to get a surefire success out of that. I'm not quite sure Dalvin Cook's that because not only is he still questionable coming off that injury, but the Panthers defense is legit. It's weird to say that might be one of the best defenses in the league this year. And they've held, other than Zeke Elliott, they've held every one of the running backs they've faced to 10 points or less. So I don't know, and I don't have a lot of faith in that Minnesota offensive line. And let's assume that Dalvin Cook's good to go, right? We don't know if he's going to be on a snap count or not. We really don't. And if he's pulled, I don't have a lot of faith in Alexander Madison either. So, again, I'm not saying Dalvin Cook's going to be a bust, but if I'm paying $7,700 for a running back, I need like a Derrick Henry type guy where I'm like, oh, he's going to light up this Bills defense because he's Derrick Henry. But yeah, no, if I'm paying more than $7,000 for running back, I need a sure thing. Not quite sure that's what Dalvin Cook is this week.
Yeah, 100% agree. The Carolina defense is very, young and hungry, and they're one of the top 5 units in the league so far at most statistical categories. So, yeah, even as good of a guy as Dalvin Cook is, especially with his injury sort of concerns, hopefully it's not a game time decision because that'll affect your DFS roster too. It's like if you're banking on him starting and playing a full game, it's just, do you want to take that risk? I think the price is a little too high for Dalvin Cook, so I agree with you 100%. Probably not a guy you want to put in your roster and sort of, worry about like, will he play, will he not play? I think, you could go in other directions and find a better play elsewhere. For me, I got another guy that I actually don't like, and that's Tyler Lockett versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's $6,700, and I think you mentioned it earlier, just the Steelers defense is probably going to play a pretty good game against the Seattle Seahawks, against Geno Smith. We sort of brought this up in a previous episode, just that Geno Smith looked okay in that limited action, having to fill in for Russell Wilson. But now that defenses are going to be able to game plan for him, I think he's going to be limited definitely. Because think about this here, Tad. In his career in the NFL, Geno Smith has more games where he's thrown multiple interceptions compared to games where he's thrown multiple touchdowns. 6 multi-touchdown games compared to 9 multi-interception games. And hey, let me put a cherry on top of that Sunday, Tad. Also 3 career games throwing for over 300 passing yards and 9 career games throwing for less than 100 passing yards. So, yeah, there's a stark difference.
Real quick, you're forgetting a key stat here.
What's that?
Also, 1 broken teammate's jaw as well.
That is correct. That is absolutely correct. But clearly, there's a stark difference between Russell Wilson and Geno Smith. I mean, Tad, you can drop your favorite quote here from Moneyball if you want to, but it's like very much that case.
Look, there's Aaron Rodgers, there's Tom Brady, there's 50 feet of crap, and then there's Geno Smith.
Maybe an extra 50 step unfortunately, I think he'll look good at times, but unfortunately, we'll see why Geno Smith is no longer a starter in this league. It's just he's going to make too many inconsistent plays. He's going to force turnovers. It's just not going to be a good day for the Seattle offense. And for that reason, DK Metcalf is also 7,200 this week, which is, pretty pricey. I'd probably avoid him this week, definitely. But the one caveat I will give you about DK Metcalf, though, is that he will probably get force-fed targets, and I think that will, like you said, in fantasy football, targets could equal production, and so that's a very possibility that he could justify that 7,200, but in my opinion, you need to pass up on both Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf for sure this week. You need to sort of wait and see. Maybe Geno Smith is just going to prove us all wrong. Maybe he's going to look good in the Seattle offense. Maybe with Russell Wilson coaching him up, he'll be perfectly fine, and you will see with the sort of Geno Smith that we saw against the Rams in that second half of action, or it could be the Geno Smith that we all know and not really love, and he will not produce. So I'm leaning more towards that as opposed to the latter more than the former. So yeah, I'd avoid the Seattle offense with the exception of the running backs. I'd avoid the Seattle passing offense if you can, because at least for a week we need to see what this offense looks like. So stay away. It's way too pricey and just not worth it.
I'm actually going to disagree with you on one single point. Stay away from the running backs, too. Just stay away from
Wow, okay. Stay away from the offense entirely, apparently.
Why even risk it?
Yeah.
It's you have, and by the way, kind of end of the show plug here, but if you are going, well, okay, I should stay away from Seattle, who should I pick up? Well, those names at the bottom, you can tweet at us. We'll let you know who to pick up. So, because we're experts like that. So, not to brag, but Amur and I are both tied for first place in our league together. So, we know what we're talking about here. So, my advice, just stay away from the Seattle offense. It's just not worth it. It's way too big of a question mark, especially going against, because here's the thing people forget. Pittsburgh's defense isn't performing as well as they normally do. That's not their fault. That's because Ben Roethlisberger keeps dropping them in crap situations. Like, yeah, if my defense is taking over on my own 30-yard line, that's very hard to keep the other team from scoring. It's not that defense for once, knock on wood, is healthy and performing well. It's just that offense keeps putting them in terrible positions. So all to say that Pittsburgh defense is legit. That Seahawks offense without Russell Wilson, I don't know what it's going to look like. So why even bother with any of them?
Yeah, really quick, for that same 6,700 that you would possibly spend on Tyler Lockett, I'll give you three better options. Deontay Johnson, $6,700. CD Lamb, $6,500. Amari Cooper, $6,000. These are three way better options compared to Tyler Lockett when you just don't know what's going to happen. What's that?
Who are the Cowboys playing this week?
Cowboys are playing the New England Patriots.
Oh, my God. Definitely go for those. Holy shit.
And obviously, Deontay Johnson and the Steelers are playing the Seattle Seahawks. So it's like, yeah. Exactly. So those are our value plays, good, bad, in between, whatever you want to call it. This is for week 6. Take our advice. Like Tad said, we're both doing very well in, our personal league there. Let us know your thoughts about, DFS, non-DFS, all fantasy football questions. We'd love to hear from you. Love to give you advice on anything and everything. You got my handle, I'm Desai23, Tad's Tad Desai94, the show handle, the Desai Guys. Hit us up. We want to talk to you about fantasy football. And we're going to continue our head-to-head challenge. Tad is now 2-0, slipping by the narrowest of margins. Once again, he won the previous contest by, I think, 0.82 points or something like that. Then this week, he just won by 3 points, I think, or something like that. So they're very close contests, and Tad has found his way to sort of slip by and get 2 victories, 2 in a row here. We will post our lineups again on our Twitter timeline so you guys can see the head-to-head matchup there. But yes, Tad is currently 2-0, and we said this earlier. We'd love to know what you think should be a reward, what should be a punishment. We want to hear that on the Twitter timeline as well. Let us know what should be, at stake between this head-to-head matchup between me and Tad. We're going to go the entire season, so there's plenty of opportunities to give your suggestions there. And hey, let us know what you think about the episode. We appreciate everybody that's tuning into the YouTube channel, who's listening to us on podcasts, who subscribes, who's following us on Twitter, anything and everything in between. We can't thank you enough.